Ok, así que vamos a continuar. Breaking Through, Francisco Jiménez. Pasa el capítulo 16. So, chapter 16, Breaking Through, Los Santitos. Okay, let's get ready. I liked being at school, and I got involved in school activities whenever I could. I joined the Squires Club, and our main duties were to keep order in the lunch line and stop students from littering. I missed the initiation dinner, which was held on a Thursday evening, but I had to work. I also became a member of the Spanish Club. In late fall of my junior year, my study hall teacher announced that a meeting was being held after school for students interested in joining the club. I decided to attend and learn more about it. Instead of going straight to the public library to do my math homework as I usually did, I went to the meeting, which was held in one of the classrooms in the old part of the school next to the tennis courts. Few students were there. Mr. Osterveen was one of the Spanish teachers, ran the meeting. He was a short, stocky man with a large head and receding hairline. Receding hairline. ¿Saben lo que significa eso? Receding hairline, así que le está diciendo que ya tiene entradas. Se está poniendo, está medio ya, está haciendo un poquito calvo, pero ya tiene entradas aquí el maestro. He had a long chin and a thin black mustache, just like Papa's. As he talked about Mexico, his small dark eyes lit up like a cat's when he saw a mouse. He said he was from New York, but had lived and studied in Mexico City, where he met his wife, who was from Oaxaca. I had heard of Mexico City, but not Oaxaca. I wondered if those places were like El Rancho Blanco or Guadalajara. He rested his right foot on one of the desks in the front row, and each time he got excited, he pushed up, making himself look taller. I felt right at home when he spoke Spanish. I signed up to be a member right there and then. Mr. Osterveen suggested a second meeting to elect to elect officers and to come up with a new name for our club. We all agreed to meet again a few weeks later. When I got home that evening after work, I told my family about the club and Mr. Osterveen. And he's a teacher? Papa asked. I was surprised to see him so interested. He usually never asked anything about school. Yes, he speaks Spanish just like us, I said enthusiastically. Is he from Jalisco? No, but he lived in Mexico for many years. Papa smiled and nodded his head. I then asked my family to help me think of names for the club. How about the little stinkers, Trampita said, chuckling. Roberto gave Trampita a slight punch and on the shoulder and laughed. You're the stinker, he said. That's why we call you Trampita. Come on, get serious, I said. How about the Spanish Club Saints? Los Santitos, Mama uttered. Los Santitos, like all of our children. Santitos, Papa exclaimed. How about Los Diablitos? I like Los Santitos, I said. It fits with the Santa Maria Saints. At the next meeting of Spanish Club, I proposed the name Los Santitos. Everyone voted in favor of it. We then elected officers. I was elected president. Abby Gonzalez, vice president. Charlotte Woodward, secretary. And Marjorie Ito, coordinator of special events. Our first order of business was to think of an activity for the club. Marjorie suggested having a Thanksgiving fiesta. I liked the idea of celebrating Thanksgiving. It was my favorite holiday because when we picked cotton in Corcoran, I started school around that time of every year. We all went along with her idea, except Mr. Osterveen. He reminded us that Thanksgiving was only a few days away. You don't have time to organize a party around Thanksgiving, he said. Well, you could for Christmas. I thought about Christmas and felt sad, recalling living in tent labor camps in Corcoran during that holiday and seeing families struggling to make ends meet. What do you think? Abby said, poking me in the back. About Christmas? Well, I hesitated and then remembered the Christmas when Papa gave Mama an embroidered handkerchief and he had bought from a young couple who needed money to buy food. What about collecting food for poor families? He finally said. A Christmas food drive. That's a great idea, Mr. Osterine said. Abby and Marjorie agreed. I'll ask teachers to announce it in study hall. Students can drop off food on cans in the cafeteria, and we'll have the Salvation Army deliver it to needy families, Mr. Osterine said. We left the meeting and agreed to meet once again before Christmas break to make sure everything was in order. Every day, the number of food bags increased, and by the end of the second week in December, we had collected 41 bags. On the last day of school before Christmas break, Captain Tracy from the Salvation Army came to collect the food. He thanked Los Santitos and gave us a certificate of appreciation for rendering eminent and memorable service to the Santa Maria community by helping the Salvation Army to give a happy Christmas. That evening, after I finished cleaning the gas company, I waited for Roberto to pick me up. I was excited because he was bringing home a Christmas tree. Ever since Roberto started working at Main Street's elementary school, Mr. Sims told him that he could take the school Christmas tree home on the day the school closed for the holidays. I sat down in the main office of the gas company and admired the large, cheerful Santa Claus painted on the front window and the tall Christmas tree in the middle of the office with its tiny white lights blinking off and on like stars in the heaven. I saw my brother drive up. I quickly locked the office and rushed to the parking lot to see the tree. It was in the back seat of the car, strewn with tinsels. It's a beautiful tree, Roberto said. Wait till you see it standing up. When we got home, Trampita, Rora, Torito, and Ruben dashed out of the house to see it. This is a very special Christmas, mijo, Mama said excitedly, clasping her hands. This afternoon, the Salvation Army brought us a huge box full of groceries. God is truly watching over us. Así que, ¿qué pasó allí en este capítulo? El club de español se dieron el nombre de los santitos y una de las actividades que tuvieron era que iban a juntar comida para los pobres. Y juntaron 40 y tantas bolsas de comida que lo repartió el Salvation Army, que tenemos aquí también. Tenemos Salvation Army. Salvation Army fue y repartió la comida a la gente pobre. Y que vimos al final, a ellos les tocó una de las bolsas. Así que la mamá estaba muy contenta. Voy a seguir leyendo el siguiente capítulo, Choosing Sides. Okay, so let's continue. I became interested in politics in my U.S. history class during my junior year. Ms. Kellogg, the teacher, required our class to follow the 1960 presidential campaign. She talked about Vice President Richard Nixon and Senator John F. Kennedy as though she knew them personally. It's your responsibility as citizens to be informed about what's happening in politics, she said often. Our democracy depends on it. Few students shared her enthusiasm. I paid close attention because I was interested and because I wanted Miss Kellogg and my classmates to think I was an American citizen. One of her assignments was for us to ask our parents their opinions on politics and the presidential campaign. Papa, who was in one of his bad moods, did not want to talk about it. But Mama finally convinced him. I don't know much, Papa said. I didn't go to school. But I can tell you that in Mexico, the rich have all the power. They choose the president, not the people. They tell us we have a vote, but it means nothing. Aquí, ¿qué es lo que está diciendo papá? están hablando sobre las elecciones. En ese tiempo, ah, mi papá le dice, no, pues yo no sé mucho, yo nunca fui a la escuela. Digo, pero te puedo decir que en México los ricos son los que tienen todo el poder. Ellos son los que escogen el presidente, no la gente. Entonces dice que tenemos el voto, pero no significa nada. ¿Creen que todavía es lo mismo? ¿Cuál es su opinión de ustedes? ¿Creen que México todavía es lo mismo? Luna quiere estar aquí. Ok, vamos a seguir. But here it's different, I said. This is a democracy. That's what they say. But I believe the rich rule here too, he said. And the rich don't care about the poor people. How do you know? I asked him, forgetting that Papa did not like us to question him. He gave me a stern look. Because I've lived many years, he responded in a harsh toned voice. His lips were thin and pale. I have seen it with my own eyes, he added. He got up from the table and went into his room and slammed the door. Mama looked at me and shook her head. Do you agree with him? I asked. Not completely, she responded, glancing at Papa's room. I think he's right about the government in Mexico. But in this country, she hesitated for a moment and then continued, I heard on the radio that Kennedy will help the poor people. So you're in favor of the Democratic Party, I said. I'm in favor of Kennedy. That's all I know, she said. If he gets elected, he'll help people like us, I thought. At that moment, I decided to be for Kennedy and for the Democratic Party from then on. The next day in class, we continued talking about the two presidential candidates. Some students supported Nixon, others favored Kennedy. Miss Kellogg did not take sides, but I figured she must have preferred Kennedy because her eyes sparkled whenever she talked about him. Besides, is it for you? Oh, me? Besides, I could not imagine her not supporting the candidate who wanted to aid the poor. When I found out that Kennedy came from a wealthy family, I knew for sure that Papa was wrong about the rich people. But I never said anything to him. I knew better. The next class assignment was for us to watch the presidential debates on television, take notes, and discuss them in class. I missed all 4 of the debates because I had to work. I did not participate in class discussion, but I listened carefully, always rooting for Kennedy. At the end of the semester, after the elections, we were to turn in a scrapbook with all the articles about the campaign published in the Santa Maria Times, the local newspaper. We did not get the paper at home, so at work every day I picked up the discarded newspaper from the day before, took it home, and piled it on the shed next to the barrack. I spent one Sunday evening putting the scrapbook together. I brought out stacks of papers and placed them on the kitchen table. Roberto sat next to me, helping me clip articles. Mama ironed while she listened to the Spanish radio station. You have enough paper there to plug every hole in the barracks in Bonita Ranch, Mama said, laughing. I explained what I was doing. I'm glad Kennedy won, she said. He gives us hope. I am too, I said, glancing at her and continued to work. She smiled and turned off the radio. I reread some of the articles and read others for the first time. I can't believe this, I exclaimed as I finished reading an editorial on the results of the presidential election. What? Mama asked, leaning over the ironing board. Did you know that some people didn't vote for Kennedy because he is Catholic? I said, raising my voice and slamming the paper on the table. Why are you surprised? Roberto asked. Roberto said, pushing back his chair and leaning back. Some people don't like Mexicans and wouldn't vote for them either. I knew he was thinking about Susan. But why? I felt upset and angry. Papa said we should respect everyone. It's true, mijo, Mama said. But some people are blinded by the devil. He plants evil seeds in their hearts. Papa appeared in the doorway. What's all this fuss about? He said, looking annoyed. He winced as he pulled out a chair and slowly sat next to Roberto. Panchito doesn't understand why some people don't like Mexicans, Ma said, walking over and massaging Papa's shoulders. Or Catholics, I quickly added. Because people are ignorant, Papa said. I am proud of being Catholic and Mexican and you must be too. I am, Roberto said, but some aren't. The janitor at Main Street School, who is Mexican, told me that Panchito and I could pass for Americans because we're light. Don't tell people you're Mexican, he said. You could easily pass for Americans. Que lástima, Mama said. Yes, it's a pity, Roberto agreed. I never hide that I am Mexican, I said. I am proud of it too. Besides, even if I tried to hide it, I couldn't. My accent gives me away. My friends tell me they can cut it with a knife. A knife? You need a machete, Roberto said. We all laughed. It was late in the evening when I finally finished reading and pasting the last article. Everyone had gone to bed. I reread the editorial, and thought of Susan and Peggy, and I became angry. I felt like shredding it. I closed the scrapbook, went to bed. I had a hard time falling asleep. Ok, ahí terminamos. Y como siempre, háganme preguntas. Bye bye.